Darling, you send me.
In recent years, I've noticed a significant increase in the use of marijuana in minors. This documentary is me trying to find out why this might be. I sat down with professionals and people who've had experience on the topic to try and find out a little bit more. Marijuana has both a beneficial side and a harmful one, if the user doesn't know the dangers it can have. The short-term effects consist of impaired memory, anxiety, paranoia, psychosis, altered perception of time and intensified experiences. I sat down with someone who I know has used it and has had to stop because they had issues with anxiety and paranoia. I wanted to talk to her as I know although she doesn't use it anymore, she sees the harmful side and the medical uses and the benefits it can have.
Well, I was probably around 13 and my boyfriend was smoking it pretty regularly, and so me and my friend decided let's do it together, and we asked him and he did it with us. I want to say social media, but I myself do not see a lot of drugs on social media, so I'm not too sure. I think what it is because people have social media, it makes them feel like they need to grow up faster, and what comes along with that is dressing a certain way, wearing loads of, if you're a girl maybe, makeup, and then so you go out town and you see people who are older who do it and you feel, oh, they're grown up, I want to be grown up as well.
Yeah.
So then you just follow in their footsteps. It's easier, as somebody who's underage, it's easier to get weed than it is tobacco or alcohol, because a dealer will sell to any age. It should be at least decriminalised, but if it was legal then you could stop, because I feel like politicians are blind to the fact that younger people can get it. Just because it's illegal, dealers aren't going to go, oh, can you give me your ID please? So if it was regulated then we could stop younger people being affected by it. I feel like people are losing a lot of their childhood and growing up so much quicker. I watch the younger people around me and when I see them, I was helping out at a school disco and I look at them and I'm like, you look like 15 and you're in year 7. I think people are just growing up too quick and just forgetting what childhood is. It is 100% technology, because as technology has, like our parents' age, they had nothing but a grey, like a black and white TV and like 3 channels, and then we had little flip phones and like a Game Boy, and now they have the top-notch technology of the day and they can just do everything with it. It's really hard to pinpoint like one thing that it can all be about, but it's sad if anything.
Some of the long-term effects consist of depression, anxiety, tremors, sweating, addiction and paranoia. On estimate, only 9% of people who use marijuana became dependent on the drug. Although these long-term effects are damaging to your mental and physical health, you can see from this statistic that marijuana is the least addictive drug, tobacco being the most addictive, yet it's still legal. I sat down with a doctor and a paramedic to see how much it impacted their line of work.
Yeah, I suppose whenever I do a consultation, that's probably one of the first, when I ask when did it first start, when did using first start and what was it, it was probably marijuana. Why do I think that is? I think the people that I've worked with have generally come from an environment where parents, older siblings are using it, so it's easier to get hold of. But I think you can say that about self-harming. Kids are saying, well, it's a way to cope. And it's become pretty... When I was a teenager, when I was growing up, never ever heard of anybody self-harming, ever. You know, one of the things I think has normalised it are programmes like Hollyoaks. I know of lots of young children that I've spoken to over the years that first saw somebody on TV on a soap coping with an issue, whatever that issue was, and using self-harm or being vomiting. Well, I think more people are doing it younger.
Yeah.
I think it used to be the odd 1 or 2 would do it at a younger age, and now I imagine the odd 1 or 2 are the ones that don't do it.
So I joined the ambulance service in 2010, and I got my qualification in 2013. So 4 years I've been a paramedic. Really weed to think from the ambulance point of view, because it's fairly harmless, you know. But as I say, it's not. You don't go to as much as people probably would imagine we do. And I think with the police, as long as it's not causing any bother anywhere else, then they're not going to be concerned over it. You know, if someone's been an idiot and is causing other people problems, then obviously they have to get involved. But do you not think it's unofficially, and maybe certainly amongst the police, almost decriminalised anyway? Well, I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? It's legal to drink alcohol, which has far more devastating effects than cannabis does. And as you say, cannabis has even got some proven medical benefits as well, certainly for people with chronic pain problems. I know it's helpful for them. I think it's just something, it's a natural progression. I mean, when I was sort of your age, when I was in secondary school at least, there was a couple of kids that were known to use weed. Yeah. But it was very, very unusual, you know. The only thing I've been to related to that is I went to a flat explosion a few months ago where a couple of lads were trying to cook up some cannabis resin. The pressure cooker exploded to the side of the flat house. The more hardcore stuff like heroin and cocaine, I would say it's more older types, sort of like 40s, 50s, certainly for heroin. Cocaine tends to be, 20s to 30s. We did have a fella that was brought to us who was a bit spaced out. He had some weed and he hadn't had any for like 30 odd years. I think he was more thought of a bit scared of the effect it was having on him. He was absolutely fine. I don't think we sent him to hospital or anything. And obviously the paranoia side of it, which people can get when they take weed, you know, might have been to a couple of people with that.
I wanted to sit down with a regular user to see when they started smoking pot, why and how they knew about it to begin with. He's been smoking for around 6 years on a regular basis. That's why I decided to talk to him, as he's a good person to talk to about it, as he is experienced with weed from a young age. For his benefit, I decided not to include any of the footage, so this is the audio from the interview that I had with him.
I was at school and my friend just kind of peer pressured me into it.
How old were you?
11. It's not harmful at all compared to alcohol and cigarettes and other legal drugs over the counter. Your brain's still developing, so using it when your brain's still developing could have consequences, because people just generalise it and they think it's a bad thing, which actually makes it worse. Make it legal, it would be harder for kids to get.
In conclusion, what I found was there's no specific reason why kids start to take drugs. I personally think that it's just because marijuana's just become more normalised. It's become more socially acceptable to do it, and that's why kids do it nowadays. I think in recent years, people have become a lot more open in doing it. They do it because it's fun, they do it because they know it's not dangerous, they do it because it's a recreational thing, they know nobody's died from it. Some people, they see it as a drug, as a harmful substance, and kids shouldn't be taking it, as it does affect their brain and it does affect how they develop. But I think that at the end of the day, kids are going to do it because they know it's not as harmful as other drugs, and to be honest, they're probably more likely to get away with doing marijuana than they are anything else. So, concluding this documentary, I ask you, why do you think kids start to take it? Why do you think that it's become socially acceptable nowadays?